for so many reasons. And hopefully over the next hour, you'll hear almost all of them. We've moved to an event format, and it's just going wild. The response is doubling and tripling, and the interactions, and it's primarily because we feel we're at the event level when we put on a show. The people here are really experienced, knowledgeable, have been giving for over a year. And, we want this to be special every day. And the other part about an event, we're getting into really the stuff we're into and we're doing, and want to bring more people into it. So I think that's it. Plus, as a general announcement, this is our 1-year anniversary of Kelle joining the show. And we were just recounting right before we went live and thinking back on how many people we've been so fortunate to meet, interact with, and actually be accepted as peers, or at times even somebody that they move towards advice or are really focused on what we think. So chat's wide open. So glad if you made it today. I'd love to see more interaction whenever possible, because that's when we know how we need to be to redirect our thoughts and actions. And, if you just want to reach out and tell me and Kelle where you're from, that would add a lot. I know I sent some invitations. I mean, yesterday, 85% of the people viewed it weren't commenting. So I'm just saying I'm encouraging it because this is a networking opportunity too. Carl's here. Carl's just the greatest.
Yes.
Me and Kelle have had the fortune of knowing him for about 2.5 months and seeing him progress in our collaboration group. His newsletter is just a wonderful source of knowledge and reflection and feedback that we're receiving and instituting. Carl says he's from Denver, Colorado. He's the first to put his toe in the water. But before I go too far, let me share. Oh, here's Harvey. Great to see you, Harvey. Let me turn it over to Kelle, and so excited to have her here on the 1-year anniversary.
I know, that's so crazy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're tuning in from. And I do want to preface at the very beginning, I'm not feeling my best today. So if I don't see my normal excited self, I am on the inside. It's just not exuding on the outside the same way as normal. But I didn't want to miss today because today is a very important day for so many reasons. And Don and I were reminiscing for the few minutes beforehand, but I personally have been reminiscing, last evening and this morning beforehand, because one, it's so hard to believe that it's been a year. And two, it's almost like it seems longer because it feels so comfortable. And then really just kind of to go into live stream and the connection. This time a year ago, I had a phone call with Don on a Tuesday, and I was on my first live, which was a Thursday last year. And I was not in a really great place at the end of 2022. I was feeling insecure, unsure, all sorts of things with my business life. And that definitely is part of my personal, my identity, very much so. So I was really struggling and thought, 2023, like I'm going to live like I'm jumping out of that skydiving out of that little Cessna that I jumped out of several years ago. Looking out and seeing the fear, but rolling into it. And when you come out on the other side, how peaceful and beautiful it is. And that's what jumping into something that scares us is like. It feels a little chaotic, a little bumpy. We're maybe afraid to go into it. But when we get to the other side of it, it's like, man, why did I wait so long to jump? And that's how this feels. And when I only had 2 days to think about it, I mean, it was a yes. And I'm here. I was living to what I said at the beginning of the year, jumping into something that I had uncertainty about. I'm not going to lie, some fear, because live sounds scary. And to be honest, I didn't want to be judged. I was definitely afraid of having that, because when you're certainly when you're an insecure, fearful place, you're afraid of those things. But now sitting here a year later and seeing what's happened during the year it's insane, quite honestly. Um, I cannot believe the people that we have met, that we have truly become friends with. I mean, Don to me is, he's a confidant, a friend, a mentor, a peer, all the things. And I probably should have taken an over under how long it would take before I would tear up. But Don has changed the lives of so many people. And we joke about how everyone is 6 degrees of separation of Don Cohen on LinkedIn. But it's true because it is, I can't thank you enough for being able to be on this part of the journey and what we've learned, together independently and what we've brought, to each other, but how it's totally changed my life. I wouldn't be doing the awesome journey. I would not have had the opportunity to meet some of the most incredible people that I am blessed to be able to not just call connections, but I'm truly able to call friends. And now this year, it's starting off with some of these connections coming out of sort of left field and certain pieces starting to come together in a way I would never have imagined. My friendship with Christy Howard, love her. Happy belated birthday. It was yesterday. Love you. Hope you had an amazing day. Um, but there's so many things, and I guess all of those are giving recognition. And Harvey Tuck for being right here on the screen right now. Wouldn't have my friendship with him, and so many countless others. It's just been such a blessing and such a gift, and I think it's also allowed the whole thing of truly connecting with people. And we talk about that a lot, like having meaningful, purposeful connections is this format allows you to get to know someone at a Harvey. Ah,
I,
how
I, I knew you would love to see Harvey. Harvey kind
yes, I would
of,
normally do my little jig, but I can't.
I couldn't miss this, and especially as you just said that you weren't feeling so good. So
Yeah.
I have to jump off at about 4:45, but
No worries. Oh,
yeah.
I don't even care if it was for 2 minutes.
well, and I knew that because Kelly's just hit it right on the nose. Is we started out, and then Harvey, it was
Yeah.
like being on the road together, and you really don't know where you're going to end up,
That's
but
right.
you just know there's something to this. Every step brings you a little bit more interest or excitement. But what I realized after a year and 360 shows
So crazy.
is the people who always deserved it and never had that opportunity.
Yeah.
When they get in front of people they used to admire or still do, and find that they're accepted as an equal or even above, and people can admire each other for different reasons and for different attributes and still be colleagues. It's verification, it's validation. If a major general will look to me and for advice and what I'm thinking and really listen and really care, and then if you extend that to 40, 50 people a day, and this is just starting.
Yeah.
Because no one even knows this exists. If LinkedIn would send everybody on LinkedIn a 5-minute copy of a compilation of a bunch of shows and say, this is valuable, we'd have 50 million people watching this tomorrow, and maybe they'd all multiply. So we're on course to not only do good for ourselves, which I think we already have.
Oh, yeah.
How do you measure the investment in confidence and vision and in the future? When you wake up and in 3 months it's only going to get bigger, it can't stop at this point. So anyways, back to you, Kelly, and then we'll bring Harvey into it. But I didn't want to interrupt your whole.
No, that was a super happy surprise. Like I said, I would normally do my little dance, but it's not happening today. But Harvey, that made my heart smile big time. So I love that and recognition. And I do feel like Don, you just said so many things like being on this show, and one of the things that I knew even with the awesome journey was that it was to help me just as much as it was to help others. because when you give back and genuinely help others, it can't help but impact your life. And it's kind of funny because, as you said, Major General, I was texting or messaging with the Major General this morning at 10 to 6, and there was somebody else in Colombia about doing another a panel about mental health. And of course, because this show was coming, it just kind of made me go, if you would have told me a year ago that that alone would have happened, I would have said, you're out of your mind. Not that I don't believe that I can't do anything I set my mind to, but it's the connections that we make with people. It's just true. It's beyond just accepting that connection request on your profile, because we get to know each other, and it's about meeting each other where we're at. And I think it's about getting back to real conversation. Like, they're not here with a pitch, because that is one of the things that we definitely stuck with the entire time, is like, we do not want this to turn into a pitch slap session for anyone. We want people here to truly connect with one another, and to do something meaningful. But I can say, I mean, I'm a better human being, bar none, because I said yes to one request or two requests, because I had that, that call on Tuesday, the 17th of January last year, and then said yes to doing a live on the 19th of last year. And it's forever changed my life in the best way. And, one of the things we did say right before we came on, and then I'll turn it back, was it makes me think, oh my gosh, where are we going to be a year from now?
Mm-hmm.
Because we had no clue what the heck we were doing. It was just like, we didn't even have a word of the day back then. It was just, we're going live, have no clue what we're going to talk about. And one of the things for me, and a little digression side note, anyone who's into Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ, which means one of the things for me is small talk is my kryptonite. Like, it's very difficult for me to do small talk. But I can have conversation with people, and it's very rare that you can find someone who's like, Dawn and I could talk about anything for hours. Like, it's just severity, but it's truth. And what a gift, that one little yes. And so, because we are still in January, and I don't care if it was actually, July, every day is a day that we can decide to make a difference in our life. And I say, because it is January and it's a new year, do something that scares you, because I guarantee you the other side of it, it's going to be something beautiful. I cannot put into words how blessed that I am. And I just was catching up on some of my social media, because it's amazing what piles up in 2 days. And it is just like, what a blessing, and how blessed I am to have these people in my life and get to talk to these people, share their stories, and really get to know them. And it all started with Mr. Don Cohen, which I know so many of us can say that. And so recognition, you're always about everyone else and not about yourself, which is part of the beauty of who you are as a human being. And see, I'll tear up again. We should have maybe taken an over under of how many times I would tear up. Is you have a way of seeing things in people, even when they don't see it in themselves.
Well, that's beautiful, Kelly. And I can't tell you how heartfelt and gratified I am to be working and collaborating with you and with Harvey, because at the end of the day, quality starts to show and people start bubbling up. And what I see, especially among the three of us, we had to get in condition this year. We had to bulk up. We had to try a bunch of stuff, learn a bunch of stuff. But when we were learning it together, we were learning it faster and with more confidence, right? Because if you say, look at this, and all three of us, yeah, that's it, then when you go at it, you're not like questioning yourself along the way. And the other thing is, you're seeing other people getting successful in little ways. Someone gets a sponsorship, someone writes a book, someone does a class, and everybody's seeing benefit. What I'm seeing that's really dramatic, and this is like the business to business LinkedIn strategy, and this is all about bringing colleagues in, collaborating, That's the strategy people should focus on. Too many people are on numbers instead of qualitative aspects. But here's the key. Once you start marching with someone and you start getting victories, you start becoming more powerful in a quality way. And now, where we used to like, would you be a guest and help me out or help the show out? Now we're saying, here's what we need to see from someone, right? Here's what someone has to be and do in order for us to get more successful, to help them more successful, because everybody we bring in duplicates through them. But the difference now is how people come in. And with what we're doing on our collaboration group, building a community here, building a community there, creating training so someone can compress the time frame and get their own show. And a year from now, say, I listened to Kelle or Harvey or Don, and I took that step.
Yeah.
And the step that happened first is Kelle reached out and said, let's have a Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? If you didn't schedule the Zoom, we wouldn't have had it. If we didn't have the Zoom, you wouldn't be on the show. So anyways, Harvey's got limited time, and we're picking up quite a bit, but we just wanted to share with Harvey how much of value Harvey is, what a great show the franchise show is, because, you can copy this format of being a little more altruistic and considerate and empathetic, but you have to be this format to do it long term. So if that's who you are, that's where you want to be, and that's how you want to be. Harvey.
Hello. Well, first of all, congratulations, Kelle. It's nice to say it in voice terms rather than in word terms. Amazing. I was just having a quick look there as to when I did that very first LinkedIn Live. And I had written it down, and it was Friday, the 14th of April. So there you go. One day before my son's birthday.
I'm glad to be right next to him.
So it's, what's that, 3 months, in 3 months' time. So it's been 9 months since then. And yeah, I mean, amazing. If on that day that we spoke and had that Zoom call, you would have said that I would have, had my own show, bringing huge value, hopefully meeting lots of really interesting people in the world that I was connected with, and had grown it that quickly. And when I say grown it, I'm not talking about numbers. I'm just talking about what we're talking about here, about genuine connections, genuine friends. And we often talk about, this is the business to business strategy event. So when you join LinkedIn, I don't think people mean to do the pitch slap and they just don't understand how to take the next step. They don't understand how to go from, this is a person I want to engage with. How do I engage with them? And because LinkedIn offers them things like in-mails and these sorts of things, they think that that's the best way to start that process of engagement. And they're just not aware that there's such a better way of doing it to build engagement, and when you connect with somebody that's in your industry, or just even if it's not business, but today we're talking about business. So let's say they're in your industry, you want to connect with them, you want to build a relationship with them, and maybe one day you want to do some business with them. But what's a good way of doing it? You send them a connection request. If they accept it, then you just send them an invitation. They can decline it. And I'd never send out, if someone declines an invitation to the show, I'd never send that out more than 4 times, because it's clearly not of interest to them now, or maybe it will be in the future. But then if they accept that and then they see the show, they start to get to know who you are. And then if they get to a point where they then make a comment, you then start to get to know them. And this is an example of the beginnings of what building engagement and a relationship with someone could look like if you use the medium of a LinkedIn Live. And just not enough people know how to do it properly. And I've got so much to be thankful for from Don and from you, Kelle, and continue to be. We're learning a huge amount from each other. Our sessions here that hopefully bring value to everyone else also bring value to to us as well, and we learn from everybody. But a LinkedIn Live is just the best example I've ever seen of engagement on a platform. You know, it goes so far beyond words, doesn't it? You know, you can see facial expressions, you know, and you get to know someone better. But and also I hope you're okay, Kelly, as well. Today.
Oh yeah, I'm one tough cookie, but yeah, I told Dawn, I'm like, it was just because today was a special day, and I definitely wanted to be here. So I'm on the mend, but just not my best.
Well, we're here, so
yeah, and that makes it better. But so many things, even that you just said there, and I think the beauty of lives, and one of the things I've been reflecting on the last 24 hours, particularly, is, you know, one of the things that we've loved when we've had people come on who are nervous, maybe, and we all get that because we've been there. But then at the end of the show, watching them like light up or be like, I can't believe that that's been an hour, for one, that how fast time goes, and how excited they are on the other side of it. Like, God, that was so much fun, because there's something special that happens. And I know this happens with all of us, you know, independently as well, on, you know, mine and Harvey's show, and as well when Dawn's on with others. Is allowing people to feel comfortable and safe to share their stories and just have this conversation where they feel like, hey, I'm just sitting with a friend having a cup of coffee. And you really connect with people that way. And what a gift that is. And truly how cool, you know, a technology, you know, I don't want to say hate. I have a love and a dislike for it. Because there is a part of social media that's not great. I mean, let's be honest, but this is the part to me that it's like, it's beautiful. I mean, because truly the connections we've been able to make, if we would never have had a live and we would have all connected, which Dawn, you and I had been connected for a few years for sure. But we would have been connected and just continued to see each other's posts. And which is fine. And we'd probably get some good content, you know, and be like, oh, I love what they're saying. You know, that's great. But it's a true connection. And even when they're connections, and this is just another good takeaway, it doesn't mean that everybody has to become your friend. I'm just blessed that so many people have become my friends, because you're having meaningful conversations without any agenda. You're not trying to get anywhere with people or try to make a transaction. You're just trying to make a connection and a relationship. Because I may not be able to do business with everyone, obviously, but I may know someone that's great for you. I do that all the time now. I mean, with people, when I meet them or after I talk to them, I'm like, oh my gosh. And that truly is one of the first things that Christy and I do after our show, or after we have a call with someone as a potential guest, is like, oh, we need to connect them with this person, this person, this person, and this person. And we do all those introductions, and with no expectation, but it's just because, hey, you need to know this person. And the same comes back to you. Hey, you need to know this person that I would never have known had I not connected with this person. Hey, but they're maybe now a potential person that I could do business with. Again, I would never have known that person if you wouldn't have done this. So, yeah, so there's, I mean, I could go in so many ways, because this is just, it's emotional and in the most beautiful way, because I can't imagine where, and I don't want to think of where I would be if it hadn't have been for that one decision a year ago. And again, it excites me to be like, where is it going to be a year from now? Because it's like, it's next level times 10, you know, because the first year was like, we're just learning, figuring this out. What can we do with this? Monetization is such a bad word. And how do we continue to grow with this show and the audience? So it's so exciting. And it's just proof for everyone, you know, again, that one decision a year from now, you'll look back and go, man, I am so glad that I did that and that I took a risk. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? So you flop and it doesn't do anything. Big deal. Go on to the next thing. And we say that a lot, on this show and many other shows, even with other hosts and guests. Failure isn't a bad thing. It's part of the process. So try it. And that is what makes a community a great thing, because where we feel safe and secure, we're more apt to take risk. Take risk, especially when you've got community behind you to support you and cheer you on and be able to say, hey, keep going. You got this. We got you. How can we help? Because we don't get anywhere by ourselves, ever. We may think we do sometimes, but we do not. Or we think we can, but we cannot. We need others' support in our life to help keep us going. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I think you make so many beautiful points, and I think it's because you've lived what you just said. You've experienced what you just said. There's so many people on a soapbox that postulate, that share wonderful knowledge, have never done anything, never plan on doing anything except having you pay them to tell them what they need to do. And, when you look at something as a learning experience, before you can even think of as an earning experience, how many people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to school for useless legacy items that don't apply? This is a school that all it costs you is your attention. And I think you make a great point, Kelle, with the people you meet here. What purpose do you have? And looking at both of your shows, Awesome Journey, if you really look at it now, is really yours and Christy's awesome journey.
Yeah,
now,
100%.
Right? You brought people in and allowed them to share their journey, because everybody has it. Everybody has a story. And the franchise show is Harvey's. And it has Harvey's style and feel and control in a positive way. And this show is therapeutic. It's cathartic for myself, because I don't know, along the ways, even in a year, 360 shows, with at least one person a show every day. I can tell you, I've got elements of Harvey in my mind and don't know where they are or how they got there. And I've got parts of Kelle, because people respond to something and say, that's not a bad response. Even if it's a facial response, you're picking it up. And hey, that's a better way of doing things. I'll adopt that. You don't know eventually, once it gets blended in, where it came from or what it is. But to your point, I know I'm a much better person because I'm my person now.
Yeah.
And now I don't depend on other people to define me or judge me, because I've surpassed them. They're watching, judging. I'm moving. Yeah. And when you're moving with a group, you're a blend of that group. And the way I look at it, we have such an unfair advantage as we get closer and more focused, because it's like three people running a relay race against one person who doesn't have two partners, right? You can drive forever if you got three drivers in the car. And I think with a show like this, it's how much can we lay down? It's like building a highway. How much road can we put down there every day and bring people on it with us? And, we had we're sharing a lot of our strategy from what we actually did. We had a first collaboration group that was necessary to create the second one. You got to go through the process. You got to start with clay before you put it into production, and then you got to take it on the track. And then you got to bring it back to the garage and tune it up. And a lot of the stuff we've learned from Harvey's props, Harvey's James Bond persona, Kelle, we're living our dreams in real life, in the world. We're wanting to share some of that spirit. So Harvey, this has been such a quality of life transformational experience. That alone would be, somebody says, well, all I need to do is redirect what I'm doing that isn't working with people I don't like or care about. And the same goes for them. How do I get over? I think that's what people want to know. You can say, I've been to the promised land. They say, well, when's the next plane leaving? And how do I get on it? So Harvey,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I've just realized it looks, if I do that, like my hat is sponsored. Look, there you go.
I love it. It looks great.
Maybe eventually we'll start selling places on our hat. So it'll be $25 a month to put your
Of
logo.
course, yeah. I haven't got much on the hat at the moment. I've got a feather there that came with it and a little pin badge that's got a US and a UK flag on.
Nice.
Yeah, I think some great points there. I think one of the things that you said there is that I liked is learning before you're earning. A huge amount of things people are looking for an ROI. They're looking for that return on that investment, whether that investment is money or whether that investment is time. A lot of people who don't understand how the process is going to work or understand the value of some of the learnings that you're going to have want to know what's the return on that time, what's the return on that money you've invested straight away as a straightforward calculation. You do this, what does it equal? It might work out that way. It's about building something. It's like in franchising. Franchising is building of trust between two potential business partners. That's exactly what it is. Doesn't matter what the franchise is. You're getting to know the other party, and you're doing. The only way you can do that is with time and getting to know someone genuinely. We do that the old-fashioned way by just spending time together, having a lunch together, going out in the car together, looking at these things. But to replicate that on a platform is what we're doing with a LinkedIn Live. And my goodness, when I think back to when I first became even active, I suppose, on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn maybe 4 years, but the first 3 years I was told by a company I worked for to be on LinkedIn, and I just reposted whatever they told me to do. So I've been active since November 2022, perhaps somewhere around there. And in terms of a strategy, I didn't have any strategy. I started off doing cat jokes when I first came on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh.
And just to see that sort of journey. And then, I realized that I wanted to help people, and I still do in terms of helping people find a new job on a Sunday. But also I want to help people in the business that I do as well by bringing value. And when I talk about this trust journey, I'm bringing value to people. And the franchise show is definitely like your show, Kelly, and like this show. It's not about what we're going to get. It's about what we're going to bring and what we're going to give, and about bringing like-minded people together with that same mentality. I had an amazing conversation with somebody the other day. I think I said to you on the last time we were on, but a real legend in the franchising industry. She was so amazingly humble about her achievements, but would have never have had the chance to have that conversation. And she just empathized with the way we do things, that we're bringing value, and she wanted to bring value in what she's done in her career. So yeah, it's just such a brilliant platform for that. I also just wanted to touch on the fact that you said about facial expressions, because when you're thinking of a strategy, and if you're going to use LinkedIn Live, or if you're thinking about doing it as a strategy, one of the options, because you look at your other options you've got, is the audio versions of this. And I think it's interesting to compare the two. But one thing that you miss with it is body language, and it's such a
100%.
big part. It's such a big part of language. What do they say? That words make up something like 10% of language, which seems crazy to say when another language is so completely different. You've only got to actually, if you've got children, or when they're young and they're playing with other children, when you're on holiday, and they all speak different languages, but yet they play happily together. Because it's well beyond words at that point. And I think that's it, isn't it? We can all play happily together. And I think being able to see our facial expressions is so much, it's another dimension, isn't it? You know, when you're thinking about your strategy on LinkedIn, you know, do you just want words on there, right?
Yeah.
Is someone really going to trawl through a long article and translate that into who you are? Very unlikely. Very unlikely. They might skim through it and try and get a take on what it's about. You know, if it then goes a little bit beyond there, you know, you're maybe making active comments and trying to engage that way. You know, you've really got to think about each comment quite carefully, and it's got to flow. It's always got to. It's that again is quite tricky for someone to tell perhaps who you are, you know. And then if it was audio, yes, of course, you know, they're going to be able to hear your words, and I think it's good. But I think to be able to see someone's face and how they react to things, and whether they're excited or whether they're, you know, not excited, it's really, really important. Oh, look, Leslie is here. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Leslie. Leslie's been a big part of everybody's growth, and has been a supporter of everybody's shows. And, you know, let me just reach back, and haven't been very recognizing. Carl's here, we mentioned, thanks, and from Denver at the same time. Harvey was here before and at the show.
Hi, Harvey.
Hi, Harvey.
Omar's here. Omar's just an interesting gentleman, was on one of his Zoom party shows, and actually my grandson, I think, volunteered to be on his kids show coming up one day. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Actually, Don, I need to go back to Omar about that, because he asked about my son maybe being on that.
Yeah, you should. They're getting recruits now. So anybody, I mean, I'm not speaking for Omar because he might be full up and who knows whatever. But it's for kids 10 to 17. And I believe Kofi is contributing 2 T-shirts to the winners. Nice. And that's nice. And I'm sure Omar will have some other prizes and everything else. And Omar does this all out of the goodness of his heart. Even when I was on, all the monies was donated to individual charities. So thank you, Omar. Carrie's here. For the last year, Carrie's never run out of jokes. And, you know, I think just helping people help people. And I get back to Harvey's point on facial, reading it. And I know Kelle just great at qualifying people and picking up the authentic vibes in people. Too many people think facial expression, they think of themselves, right? Instead of, hey, I need to see what they're looking like, because it means something in believability, in credibility. When they're saying something in words, you know, when you see their face and you see how they can't, you know, in poker, it's called a tell, right? If someone pulls on their ear every time they have a good hand, once you see that, you know they have a good hand. When people are talking, they don't consciously always see every little bit that changes in their face. And you start to build the puzzle with people, and then ultimately you figure them out. And once you figure them out, you went so much further than the average superficial person, because I think when people come on LinkedIn, they think it's like a lottery. I'm going to connect with someone who's going to change my life. And that's very true, but it's not going to be from the connection. The connection it's going to be from the conversation and from the interactions. Because I've seen people get back to me, and 6 months later, and then 6 months later, I've known them for 5 years, and we've never talked, but it was always a deferral for something. Hey,
can I interject real quick, because I know Harvey's got to go in 5 minutes, and I just wanted to say, what time is it, Harvey?
Drop time.
Well, I'm going to have to think of something really quickly today, because it must be. I don't even know what the word of the day is. The word of the day.
I don't even know we have a word of the day anymore.
I think it was recognition, but I mean, it's anniversary, so celebration and, you know, reflection, I suppose.
Well, let me suggest your hat, because it's become such a part of your logo.
Maybe all of our hats.
Yeah. identity, I think that was something. I was never much of a hat guy until the show, and now people want to see a hat. So Harvey, pick one out that lends itself to our conversation.
Well,
and thank you, Kelly. We couldn't have a show with Harvey without a prop.
I know.
Well, I'll have a think. I will have a think of one for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Because genuinely, I haven't thought about it. But
because you have to leave in a few minutes. What other thoughts or additions can you add?
Well, I think I think in terms of strategy, because if I was to go back, Leslie's. I was listening to Leslie's show, and she's just made a comment about some persistence that I used, but I think I might have said that story before. But yeah, I think if I could go back in time with my LinkedIn strategy and have the benefit of where I'm at now in terms of the relationships I've built, the friends that I've made, and the advancements that I've made in terms of my industry and recognizing people in that and bringing people up in that industry and adding value. I wouldn't have believed it then. And I know I've got a prop. I've used it before, but I need to get it right.
I love it. You can totally see the light go off there.
Well, when Harvey's on the hunt, there's no stopping Harvey.
And this wouldn't be the same on audio. Just saying.
No, you'd miss everything. Maybe some people want you to miss everything.
Yeah, because we would miss things like Pebbles biting Harvey on Tuesday on his show.
Well, I have used this one before, but forgive me for that because there's only so many things here, but it's very cool.
Great.
It's Back to the Future, huh?
I love it. It's DeLorean.
And I think that the reason that I'm, of course, choosing the I'm so sorry about that. Leslie has just said almost X-rated here. Yes, my T-shirt might have ridden up a little bit there, so apologies. It's alive. What can I say? But yes, the reason I'm going to use this is I said there, if I could go back in time, then it would be amazing how much you could achieve by starting at the point we're at now, back then. Yeah. But the advantage we're giving all of you lovely people is you can sort of have that advantage of going back in time because you can start at this point with the learnings we're giving you. So there you go. Back to the future.
Love it.
Well, that was perfect, Harvey. And I know you got to run in a minute or two. And I just want to thank you for all you do for so many. And the same thing goes to Kelly and Christy. And, that's your reputation. That's your brand, is how you support, how you promote, how you help people as part of your, let's say, plan to be more successful. The saying, the more people you help become successful, the more successful you'll become. And if you just look at it like a wall and you got to build those blocks. But you know what I found? I'm so happy that there was no real effort to monetization because it wouldn't have been right at that time with those people doing what you were doing. It took a breakthrough. And I think Harvey and myself had that conversation yesterday with somebody who was far more experienced at live streaming and broadcasting. And is crazy about what we're doing here. And Julian came back and wants to get back on. And Russ, who's doing these wonderful shows, can't wait to do things. But you know what? The circle is going to get bigger and tighter with those few people that continue to bubble up and are ready to roll or already rolling, right? You can't want something for somebody more than they want it for themselves. You can't do more for somebody than they're willing to have done for them or with them. And I think it's playing with the players, being with the people on the field and joining up as a team. Because, teams win and lose, but there's that camaraderie. and especially like in the military or something that like, someone's got your back, someone's going to be there for you and with you. And that we're all going to make mistakes and learn from them. And I think that's the key, is not what you did, but why'd you do it and what'd you learn from it? And if you can say, well, it solved that question and it led me to this new action. So if you look at everything as a process and not an outcome, and you reserve judgment, and to Harvey's point, you need to support at home. If I've been at this for a couple of years every day and really haven't monetized it. If someone said, "What'd you make today?" and I had to answer that question every day, I couldn't keep doing it, right? Or having that question. But if someone says, "Hey, I believe in you. You've done it before. You'll do it even better now," and it's like, "Hey, I'll do it for you then. Even if I stop believing in myself, I'm not going to let you down or the people around you." And I think you don't know the blessings you give to the people who care and love you the most, and will never share every little bit of it. But hey, my Kelly's a broadcaster and she's got her own show, or Harvey's the head of the franchise show. Doesn't mean he's the head of the franchise industry, but he brought a gathering place. Like it's like having a tavern for the local town. I mean, you're here to serve everyone, to make everybody happy. And Kelle always made that point. I know Harvey's got to run. Harvey, I don't want to delay wherever you're going, but thank you so much. Yeah. You put a candle on the anniversary cake today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations again, Kelle, and looking forward to continuing to grow together. And I wonder where we'll be on the next anniversary.
Amen, my friend.
All right. Well, take care, guys. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bigger and better, Harvey. Thank you for the rest of your weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Ciao.
So that was a nice, pleasant surprise. It wouldn't have been the same without Harvey.
That was awesome. I love that. And so many great points. And one of the things that was standing out as he was talking about like audio as opposed to video and such, because audio, though, I mean, there's some people like Leslie, as an example, because she's here. She's interesting to listen to because she knows how to do the audio is difficult for some because I think people go in and they talk and they want to be sure that they're talking about certain points or they're following an agenda. And it's so sleepy and it's so flat. But you have to be a little bit, I mean, there's an art to audio. You've got to be a little bit bigger than yourself and you have to emote differently. And it's a true fact. And I do remember when we used to train people way back in the day of doing cold calling, is you need to sit there and smile when you're saying the words because it will emote through the phone differently when you're truly smiling as opposed to you just, reading a script. And it's the same with audio. You have to be a little bit bigger, I think, and to be able to keep that excitement going, and people to listen, and be willing to take feedback, and then ask people, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" I mean, we've asked that over the time. Hey, what could I do different? And in the beginning, I watched most of our episodes for that reason, because I wanted to get better and wanted to pick the things maybe that I was doing that were quirky, or noticing like, oh gosh, I say too much, or I say this too much. As I just said, and that's part of who I am though. Because over time, I'm still like, I still say every once in a while when I'm thinking or when I'm transitioning somewhere, but it is a part of it, right? Watch yourself and accept it and laugh at it. Because man, Lord knows I've messed up so many times. But I'm at a point now where I'm okay with it. A year ago, I would have cared. I probably would have been devastated if I would have done some total crash and burn on episode 1. I haven't watched the first one. I should go back and watch it. Because I think it probably will be funny because I was so nervous and, but excited at the same time because I knew I could have a conversation with Dawn with no problem. Was more worried about the audience and then what that experience was going to be like, which has been great. And yeah, it's just hard to believe it's been a year, truthfully. Like I really cannot believe it. And just so everyone knows, as a little reminder, or if you've never even heard it, Don and I had been connected on LinkedIn for at least, it was before 2020 that we were connected. I know that, or maybe around 2020. I can't remember, but I know in 2021, we had a Zoom call, and you were doing something different at the time. And I had just started working with a pretty big client. And so I was really engulfed in their work, and it just didn't line up. Like what I was doing with this client, I didn't need what Don was doing at the time, but always stayed connected and followed him. And when I saw him start doing these lives, I was just interested. Like, wow, I don't know what this is. I want to know what he's doing, because I had known from our call a couple years earlier, he always had a different approach than the masses. He was always doing something different. So I wanted to know, like, what are you doing? What does Don Cohen have up? Because if he's doing it, it's worth looking into. And I never thought that one phone call would be a difference. And I know that there's many of us that say that you're one connection away of it making a difference, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a difference in your pocketbook. And I do want to go back to that whole thing of, value. Value is also your connections. If you're constantly just trying to make a transaction, you're not really connecting with people. And this is a foundation that you can't shake. And like I'm saying, a year later, there's things that people are having conversations with me now that I've met during this whole period that I would never even have thought that I would be doing this year or looking into exploring this year. So, be patient, because not everything has to be a transaction, and you don't always have to have a goal in mind. And I think that's a good reminder too. I had no idea where this was going to go. I just knew I was drawn, and definitely from my faith, to keep doing it, because it was like, this is going to take you somewhere, go with it. And not only was it about taking me somewhere, it wasn't about a destination with a transaction. It was about what it did for me as a person. Because again, I'll go back and say, I'm a better human being for starting this, for the people I have met, and all of in the true relationships that I have. That's priceless. And that's the value of life. And I'm not saying we don't all need a paycheck, because I realize that we do. But it's a friendly reminder to all of us, because that's something that you can't put a price on, one. But two, this week, someone, Ben Owen, who I will quote, and I love this, he said, I don't want to be remembered for the man I am. I want to be remembered for what I did and why. And I just kind of thought, man, if everybody lived that way, that's so beautiful, because it's about living for others, being a servant leader, a servant heart, however you want to label it. And it's like, God, if we all just did that, how beautiful this world would be. And I don't mean a kumbaya moment or, world peace, but it really is that simple to do something, and just having a little change of our thought process of things, because it's not all about the transactions. And you'll be amazed at when you build a solid foundation of connections. Man, there's nothing you can't do off a solid foundation. That's my thoughts right at the moment.
Well, I think they're perfect. I always have. And, again, if we would have made any plan, it wouldn't have taken us to where we are. It would have taken us somewhere. But, you get so committed to the destination, you forget about the journey, the process, the grace that you need to give yourself, the balance. And the other beauty of what we're doing is you can transition. You don't have to give everything up to get in the game. You could just have a plan, hour a day, 2 hours a day, whatever you can afford, without disrupting the rest of your life. And as something grows, then you could start redirecting things again to stay in balance. And, our hope, and I think Kelle hit it right on the nail on the head there, is if one wants to be remembered for what they did and who they helped and how they helped, then getting people up and out is so important. I mean, these are lifeboats that we're starting to generate and get people, and it is truly a savior for their life, for their future. And that's what everybody's so health conscious, but good health comes from attitude. Your mind and your heart have so much importance, and winning a prize, getting an amount you put in the bank, I mean, that's all great, but that should be the result of your efforts, not the reason for them, right? So if I'm going to help 100 people and 100 people get helped, how do you put a price on that?
You don't.
Right? If all of a sudden you wake up in the morning, you can't wait to get started because there's people who depend on you, wait for you. I mean, you've got a purpose. You've got something bigger than yourself to make you want to get beyond yourself. And that's where most people can't break free is they're getting in their own way all the time.
So true. And I just want to interject one little thing for everyone and I know we probably shared this before, but I think it was sometime last summer, and it doesn't really matter, but the time, but it was definitely still before we were doing the word. We were still just going live at the time. But Don and I had gotten a message from a regular listener, and I, of course, cried. A shocker for everyone. And I reached out to Don right away, and he had gotten the same message, a little bit. They were both personal. But it was about how the show kept this person going, and it changed their life because it helped give them something to look forward to, gave them community. They were able to connect with other people. And it was at that moment that I was just like, job done. If we help another person, fantastic. Like, that's just a bonus. But that's all we were ever feeling internally was how can we help other people in providing this space of safety, security, and, a hub for, hey, if you need to know someone or we know someone we can connect you with, reach out to us, and connect with your community, connect with the people that are here. But that was, to me, like a changing moment in the whole process of, I don't need to have a goal to monetization or to anything else, because that one email, and I've been blessed to receive more than just the one, but it was that first one that was just like, oh my gosh, why would you ever want to do anything else other than that? Because that is priceless of how we can truly help one another just by showing up. And I think that's what lives are supposed to be about, is show up, be authentic, and be present, and just be real. I mean, and I think that's the beauty of so much of it, because we're all so sick and tired of, I'm not a reality television fan because I think it's garbage. Because it's not real, y'all. It's so fake and it's so produced. And I think everybody's sick of that. They want to get back to the basics and have, I think, real human connection. So, yeah.
Now, those are great points, because I actually saw this little article how scripted TV shows are not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So unless people are, because everybody's used to in the moment. Yeah. Right. So what I see, and you're right, that situation that we both experienced, I didn't know we had that kind of power. Yeah. I didn't know we could influence people in that way. And when I discovered it, it made it more worthwhile, because you wanted, when something good happens, it reinforces doing it again, right? You put a quarter in a slot machine, if it always paid off, you'd never leave that machine, right? If it was a guarantee. And we're riding the coattails of LinkedIn and Microsoft and live streaming as an industry. So when you're on the front end, and here's one more thing that I take pride in, and I'm proud of Kelle and Harvey and a lot of people here, is that we're probably, if not among the most experienced, knowledgeable live streamers, because we've done so many together and we've learned so much. So you can have people who spend 30 years in the brewery industry or 20 years in architecture, but when they come to live streaming, we're one of the better games in town. Mm-hmm. And that's why we really are pivoting to get into a basic training, because I see that. I saw Ann Bambola, who this was her first show she'd ever seen. And she was here every day and brought her mother and was so nice and generous with her comments and thoughts. And now I see she's in orbit. And you know what? I couldn't be happier. I saw Dean here every day. And when people leave here, if they leave and I never see them, I feel what happened. But if I see, hey, they got their own show, they're involved with this own network, they're building events and collaborations, that's where I see our purpose is. Let us get you into a compressed, accelerated form that if it took Kelle a year and it took Harvey 7 months, why couldn't we collectively get someone? And Carl actually is that person that within 3 months will have his show, will have his group, and will probably have a lot of the audience who will follow him to support his show. So, you know, it's there. We're there. All we have to do is take our trust to a level of collaboration. And, you know, I think Kelle and Harvey and so many people, including myself, we're not going to hurt anybody, you know? So, I mean, just know that we're not going to take you on a boat ride and let you drown, you know? So if we're getting involved with you, it's going to be your success that's going to be primary. And, you know, I'm just hoping Carl gets up and can come on in 2 months and say, man, my whole world has changed, because enough Carls, Kellys, and me will make believers. So with that, I couldn't be happier with our anniversary show. I'll always treasure it. And I did look back and watch our first show, and you'd be surprised how good you are even on that show. You could see a stronger persona with a little trepidation when it started. But beyond that, you're no different than you were a year ago. And it did show a lot of bravery, courage, you know, that looking back was easier than one thought. But that's the beauty of this, is when people expect the worst and they see the best. And expect to, you know, a lot of people like, well, work for you probably won't work for me. And that's the true believers, because the people who believe the most against something, once they see the light, are the ones who don't want to ever leave that something that shows them the light. So with that, Kelle, thank you. Carl, Leslie, what a wonderful group of friends and neighbors we have here. And, you know, I'm just thinking you could have a friend a block away, and by the time you got to Starbucks, could be a month. You can have somebody in London that you're going to see 3 times a week and never think about what would have happened if you had to fly there and take a car and visit. So thank you. Come back tomorrow. No, there's no tomorrow. I'm taking off. And you know what? I worked harder last Saturday and Sunday than I did typically, because I could just focus on the coming week, on getting things ready, where if you're just doing a show, that's 3-4 hours. By then you need a break. So anyways, it's all for the good. And if you can be here a year from now, I can't tell you what the story is, but I know it's going to be unbelievable. So
I'm excited for it.
Well, I'm going to be with you. So hang in there, and see you Monday. Actually, Monday's Harvey, Kelle, and me. And the title is going to be LinkedIn Strategy Show. And I figured something out yesterday to change it from best practices to strategy. So with that, thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll see each other.